you're the timekeeper? Okay, she might give him a little nod if it's going one way or the other. Okay, have fun.
Okay. How much time do I have? Huh? 20. So after 20 minutes, what do? You send me a signal, or what kind of signal? Shoot me? Boom! So the sound is on properly? You can hear me? No problem? Okay. Really? I've got the Bible here. Shall I read that loud? No? Okay. Oh. Oh my God.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, my. On? Oh, now it's on. Yeah. So I'm supposed to speak now?
Yes, please do.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Kent Olberg. And the first thing I want to say here is that I'm deeply grateful for this honor of creating the namesake of my beloved city of Corpus Christi. That's incredible, you know. What more can one ever wish for? And it's been tried so many times before. You know, Borglum, he tried and tried, and he finally went there and called Mount Rushmore instead. But I stuck around and I got to do it. And it's amazing. I'm so honored. I have spoken here so many times already. I think this is the 4th time now, 4th or 5th. And so this time I'm going to make it a fairly short speech. So I hope you can take it. I've spoken as much as an hour here about the statue and the process and all that stuff. But now I've been told I have 20 minutes, so yeah. Yeah. So I guess we can get started. I want to tell you a little bit about my background. I come from a fishing village in Sweden, in northwest coast of Sweden, out in the North Sea. And as you can tell, it was a very comfortable day in the winter, right? But in the summers, we worked in the fishing fleet, the kids. You know, when we were out of school, we worked in the fishing fleet. And you stood up above your knees in fish and sorted and checked and threw some overboard that wasn't edible and or marketable, you know, because that's what we did for a living, fishing. And then the fishermen, we often landed in Denmark, which is nearby. You know, Denmark is just a quick cruise across. And even in England, we even sailed across the North Sea to England too. But in Denmark, there was a famous Danish neoclassical sculptor, and he had this Christ statue, and they had it for sale as a reproduction. And the fishermen in my village, a couple of generations before me, bought it and placed it in our main church. And it was a very fundamental, very hard-powered church. And it was sitting right at the main nave, you know, right in the center. It was quite tall. And I loved it. I absolutely fell in love with it, and I looked at it every day. But the priest, of course, was very, very judgmental. And he told us, you see what he's saying? You're going to get condemned, and you're going to do that, and this and that. But it was an influence on me. And then I went to art school in Stockholm, the Royal College of Art in Stockholm, in other side. Quite a big change from me, from a fishing village to the capital. And then I traveled extensively. I got some diploma in Germany, so I don't speak German. And I spent quite a bit of time in Paris. And here's Rodin's Gates of Hell, which I kind of liked. They had so many different figures in it. And also, I played the violin and an accordion and guitar. But here on the street in Paris, in one place, there always sat the same blind fiddler. And I sketched him. I was so moved by him because he played such beautiful fiddle music, but he didn't know, he didn't read, he just played out of his head. And I did a sculpture called The Blind Fiddler because I thought it was so wonderful, you know. And I mean, he was not recognized, he didn't make a living, God knows. People donated money when they walked by, you know. And I was just a student, so I can only give them a few pennies, you know. And then I came to Corpus Christi, my dream town. And my wife and I ended up here by sheer accident, by sheer chance. We lived in Denver, and I had a studio in Denver. Came to Denver first, working for the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. Because they hired me from Africa. I was the curator for Botswana's National Museum. And then I quit and to try to do my sculptures full time. And I heard that Texas actually had a coast, had water. And I grew up in a fishing village in Sweden, and we watched black and white movies, you know. That's all we had. One little lady had a little TV in the corner that we all packed in to watch. And so I had a show in Oklahoma City in the Cowboy Hall of Fame, and my wife and I decided to drive down to take a look and see if it was true that Texas actually had water. My wife, by the way, is sitting right there. That's really my favorite woman, yeah. And look, lo and behold, we drove over the Harbor Bridge, and here's the smiling bay. And my heart just went boom, 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 boom. And we drove around the island, and we ended up on the island by sheer chance. Took a right first, turned right, and we found a house on a canal. And there wasn't much built then. A long time, it was 48 years ago. And it was perfect. We raised our 2 boys here, and one of them is still here, Robert. And that's the best thing we ever did. I love Corpus Christi. It's in my favorite. So you can imagine the honor of being commissioned to do a sculpture of his namesake, Christ. You know, the Corpus Christi, Christ's body. And then, of course, commissions. Here comes First United Methodist Church. In fact, this very church. And we asked about doing possibly, chance of doing a sculpture of Jesus here. And it's been tried before in Corpus, as I told you. You know, and like I say, Borglum had a great proposal of a giant statue. We would have been as famous as Rio de Janeiro if we've listened to Borglum. But the public, the leadership said, no, it cannot be religious on public land, cannot be religious placement. So here we have private land. And I was asked to find a spot around the church. And I thought that was the most perfect spot. And of course, my wife is standing there as a scale model. She's been scale model in many different sites in the world. Yeah. And the sculpture is going to be just a bit taller than that. And then coming up with an idea, a proposal to the committee, to the church, you know. And what did he do? What should he do? Hands up, drawings, you know, blessings. And I thought that was pretty cool. But this was more like a real blessing, you know. And then one of the members of the church had been to Palestine. And they found a boat in the Sea of Gennesaret from Jesus' time. And that became a great inspiration for me. And I wrote to the museum through my museum contact, and they sent me drawings of the boat. So this boat is actually fairly accurate from Jesus' time. Here it is the boat when they dug it up. Here's the model of it. So the boat, even though, of course, it was criticized from time to time, somebody called it the Surfing Jesus, which is fine too. The kids can call it Surfing Jesus. That's fine. Who knows if Jesus surfed or not? He certainly had fishermen as friends and apostles. And I bet he was spent quite a bit of time on the fishing boats with him. And then, of course, the clothing, took some research, clothing from the time. And then I came up with a maquette, the model. It's called a maquette. It's a scale model that I use for enlarging. And now starts the real process of labor and sweat and dirt. And first of all, steel beams everywhere that supports. It's going to support because it's going to be sculpted in clay in the end. And the clay is heavy, thousands of pounds of clay. And so it has to have heavy steel support to support it. But I also need volume, so I first have cardboard, and then I spray foam on it. So it's light, and I can carve the foam and get a rough idea. Here I'm standing holding the maquette, scale model of Jesus. And here it's being carved, here's the foam. And then I sculpt in clay. And it took months, it took a year, it took several years. Hard work. And then the head I had, so I could remove it or put it back, and then I could get detail. So I can work on it separately. I didn't have to stand up on top. But when I tried to take the head off the first time, I fell down, so I hit my head pretty bad. So Jesus gave me a message: don't cut my bloody head off. And here it is, here's the finished clay model. And now we make a mold. So we make a rubber mold, spray on rubber, and then plaster on Paris on top of the rubber. So this is what the molds look like, and in lots of pieces. So it's hell to keep them organized and keep them proper, to know what goes where. It takes a sculptor to do that. The foundry, they pour the bronze, but you have to stay on top to be supervising. And the head I did set in 2 halves. That's the biggest mold I made. I didn't want to divide the head if I could get away with it. So. And then we poured wax in the mold. And here's the hands in wax. And they get put in an oven and fired. The wax is burnt out and melted. And the ceramic shell that's on the outside gets fired and permanent. And then when it's dried, it's really burnt out, you pull it out of the furnace. And now it's ready to pour bronze in. And now we're pouring bronze in the ceramic shells. And you can tell here it needs cups, it needs supports, and it needs all sorts of feeding. You see those, looks like a tree. It's feeders to feed the bronze into the sculpture part, which is on the bottom. And there were so many different parts. This is already partly assembled, a boat, but you see what a mess it is, Tons and tons of pieces. And it has to fit exactly. And each one welded and then grind perfectly smooth and recreated texture, And the planking had to run through it and everything else. Yeah. Here's the back of Jesus. Just to give you an idea of the size of the plaques. Not very big. And here we are putting them together and grinding. And it's really difficult. You have to be really skillful because you have to recreate the texture. And we used everything down to pencil points. We had a dentist friend who gave us a used dental burrs, And that will really recreate every detail. And then we sandblast it, and then we put on patina, which is the finish, which is an oxidization of the bronze. And bronze, I want to tell you, is a fantastic material. It's the most permanent material known to man. You know, we found in the sea, in the Mediterranean Sea, bronzes that goes back for thousands of years. And they pulled out and they scrape off all the barnacles and stuff, and it's pure bronze underneath. So bronze survives by develop like a color, like a green. If it's in near water, when it's ice and stuff, salt and stuff, it gets green. In the city, it gets black. So I don't worry when our bronze set was green. And right now, by the way, thank you. It's beautiful. It's been cleaned. It looks really fantastic. Thank you, guys. And here it is completed, finally. I exhibited, actually, before I hold it down here, and we had a big show in Loveland, Colorado, in a sculpture in the park. And I exhibited it there overnight, you know, before we hold it down. I had to show it off to my colleagues. Yeah, exactly. I had to brag because, as most of you know, I am really well known for animals, but I'm not that well known for people. You know, all the public sculptures around here is of fish and animals, you know, and like down the road here is a double header, you know, or the wind in the sails, 2 sailfish, just a few blocks down. And then on the way to the island, as you enter the island, there's a big jumping marlin, you know. And so people, when they see this, they say, I thought you only did fish. You do other things than fish, L-I-B. And then here it is a dedication with Mark Doty. Is he here? Ah, there he is. Ha ha, my hero. Hello, Mark. He was there for the installation and dedication. So thank you very much for this honor. I can't tell you how honored I am to have created the namesake of my beloved town, Corpus Christi. I love Corpus. We lived there for 48 years, 49 years going, and raised 2 boys here. It's a fantastic place. So thank you again. A million thanks. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to have a panel discussion with Kent, and we are asking if Dr. Mark Doty will come forward and Mayor Paulette Guajardo, and to have a seat where there is a microphone.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Who's it?
One of those 3 where the mics are. I'm going to take this one here too. Good, just have a seat. I'm up here. And after. Okay. we wanted to have a moment to chat with you all about this wonderful gift to the city. The It Is I statue. And again, my name is James Amerson, if y'all don't know who I am. Good to see you. But my first question is to you, Dr. Doty. You were here as the senior pastor. What was the feelings of the members when this project was brought to you? Or what was actually First Church feeling that they would take on such a big project? Yes.
I really didn't ask. I just did it. And Dorothy McCoy, whom some of you know, great retired English teacher from Ray, when she came for the funeral of her son, handed me a check after the funeral for $10,000 and said, this is to start a fund for a Christ statue on our property. So I thought, okay, Dorothy, we're going to do this, and recruited a big committee of folks. And I think the spirit, James, was just electric. I mean, people were very excited about it. I never heard anyone say, we're not going to do this. Of course, we had to raise all the funds outside of the church budget. That was the big thing, and that was a lot to do. But we did that too. So, yeah, from the very start, it was very exciting and thrilling.
So, Ken, I was recently in Omaha and got to see one of your commission projects with the bisons and the flocks. And you mentioned in your presentation earlier that most of your works are animals. When you were approached by First Church to do this project, how did you feel? What made this project something that you would like to take on, particularly since it was a human figure?
Well, I was deeply honored, really. And I've sculpted human figures before, but not lately. And I had to do some research, of course, anatomy research and stuff. But I was basically incredibly honored. And it took quite a bit of work with committee and opinions and stuff, and which is different from when I sculpt on my own, But I done it before, and I put up with it, and I was very honored.
So, Mark, how did you know Kent, and where did that connection come, and how did that bond working together?
Well, that was really a surprise. We, first of all, consulted all the sculptors registered with the city, and there were 22. Okay. And we winnowed down the list to 7 and asked them to bring something, a drawing or a maquette or a model or something. Kent was the last of the 7 that we interviewed, and he was the only one who said it needs to be at least 25 feet high or it will be dwarfed by the size of the building. And he was the only one who said it needs to withstand hurricane force winds. That impressed the committee, and he was the only one that showed Jesus in a boat. So everyone loved all those ideas, and that's really what gave him the commission immediately. There was no question in our minds.
And so working with Mark, how did that feel? Was he a good spirit?
In hindsight, it was terrific. At the time, was on and off. No, we got along fine. Right. Professional level, Yeah, absolutely.
One thing I would add, I remember wonderful discussions with you, Kent, about what Jesus should look like and the posture, and he said, Dr. Doty, what do you think? And he said everyone has his or her own idea of what Jesus should look like. And I said, that's very true. That was the challenge facing you. And I said, well, I just sort of pictured Jesus like this and just stood on one foot and did this. That seemed to work. That seemed to fit. That winning idea, the welcoming Christ, the peaceful Christ, and so on. And I thought that was exciting that we shared that back and forth together theologically. What did that mean? And that was really meaningful.
Yeah, exactly. We had a great time working together, really. Yeah.
So he's a good spiritual leader to help
Yeah.
in defining the
For
future.
sculptors.
For sculptors.
Good spiritual art leader.
Mayor Paulette Guajardo, this is our 30th anniversary for the It Is I, and you're from Corpus, correct?
Yes, I am.
So did you remember the erection of this when you were younger?
We're just going to say younger.
Yeah.
30 years ago. You know, I remember hearing about it, but I don't remember keeping up with it. But what you do remember, whether you realize what was happening here, which was historic 30 years ago, is once it went up, was seeing it because it was so grand. And there's still nothing like it. There isn't another one. There isn't. Jesus Christ is not along our shoreline or ocean drive anywhere but here. And so that stood out as far as I think it really became part of our city's identity. And as you get older, because of course at the time I was very young,
Yeah.
but as you get older, and as whether you drive by going to work every day or not, as I typically do, and just wisdom, right, comes in years, and life happening to us. You see this statue, and it becomes so much more than just a statue. It becomes for all of us, I'm sure, it's reassurance. It's a symbol of unity. It's a symbol of, faith, hope, and where it stands. And I'm sure y'all can agree, it isn't by chance that you created this at all, even though you typically, like you said, even though you typically do animals, God's plan was for you to
Yes.
create this.
Yes.
And of course, you too, you were part of this plan. And I just think it was so purposeful. I don't believe in chance. I believe that everything is God's will for in one way or another. But I think that the history that Kent has here in Corpus Christi is just, it's historic in itself. But this particular statue it's almost like a milestone for the city of Corpus Christi because of what it represents for thousands and thousands of people who drive by it, take photos by it, and what it means to them every single day that people see it for some.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. It's just fortunate that we happen to have that space here in front of the church, and it's private space, private land, because we couldn't put it. Borglum wanted to put it everywhere possible, out in the bay, or on the beach or somewhere, and the regiment, we was told it could not happen on public land. And then we have this perfect spot in front of the church. It was made for us, and like I said, it overlooks the bay.
Absolutely.
And everybody drives by and can look at it. And what more can an egotistical sculptor wish for? Dun, 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 dun.
So I'm not sure how many are under 30 that are in the audience. If you're under 30, would you raise your hand? Okay. And so this is for each of you, because 30 years ago, most of us were alive. But what is the message that we would want for Corpus Christi and the It Is I? What's next is the question. I would like to pose it to each of you, spiritual leader, creator, and leader of the civic group. What would that be?
Well, for me, the idea of a welcoming Christ doesn't go away. It lasts forever. It's timeless. Inviting folks to be a part of the city, to be a part of Corpus Christi, to be part of all that has gone on here. And so that's why I just think the message is so beautiful and will last forever, really. So.
Thank you. Kent?
Yeah, well, bronze indeed does last forever. And we also created it very strong to be hurricane-proof. Course, so that Jesus' dad doesn't wipe him out, Yeah. But but the placement is miraculous, you know. And I mean, that's just so fortunate. It's incredibly lucky that this church had that placement. And it would have been hard to find another private space, because it has to be private, you know. I was thinking of even putting it on top of the church. And of course, if I had it my own way, I would have made him twice as tall. But it is perfect, really, where it is. And every time I drive by, I'm so proud and so grateful to this congregation for giving me the opportunity to create this. That's just incredible. And you believed in me, even though all you knew were my fish. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mayor Paulette.
Yeah. So for me, what it means, that was a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, what it means is what I see when I'm looking at this, the miniature one right here in front of us. I feel protection. And by the way, thank you for the windstorm, making sure that it is built to windstorm regulation, because I don't think it'll ever go anywhere, you know. And I think, like you mentioned, the positioning is even more so behind what it means to me or what I feel. Again, it's protection. It's like Jesus Christ is here. He's with us. He's in our city. He's present, and he is protecting us. And ironically, right in front of what we're known for, which is our hurricanes. And so that's extremely important, because, you know, in past hurricanes, you pray. You know, at the end of the day, you can protect your home, you can have it insured, you can, you know, we board up, we leave, all of these things. But at the end of the day, all of that is really in the name of protection. And the only one, our husbands, you know, whoever helps us at home, they can help us board up, they can help us do all these things, but the only one who's going to protect us, and I think we know that as a city, is Jesus Christ. So for me, it's protection against not only hurricanes, but I love, like you mentioned, the position and the place. Again, not by chance. That's exactly where he was supposed to be, you know, erected. And I just feel like because he's in front of the bay, it's just protection.
So as an itinerant pastor, you know, we step into these wonderful settings, and so I celebrate the labor of love of First United Methodist Church, Kent Olber, for what you have done, and it is on my watch to be a good steward of this, and certainly I want to thank each of you, First United Methodist Church, for the vision. Dr. Doty, Kent, and Mayor, we got to work to make sure that our city knows this as that spot when they come to Corpus Christi. Thank y'all so much for spending time with us this morning, and we hope that you'll be able to stay for worship. And again, thank you for being a part of this presentation. It is I. We will take a 15-minute break. The proclamation. Thank you. I did. All right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you, and good morning, everyone. It is a great honor. It is a great honor to be here on behalf of the city of Corpus Christi to read this proclamation and celebrate with you how much this means and what a milestone this is, not just for First Methodist, who was founded in 1853, but also for the city of Corpus Christi and for the residents of this community, regardless of whether they belong to this parish or not. The statute, just as we were just talking about, means so much, and it stands for so much, and we need it, especially in today's time. So I'm, again, very honored to be here. So with that, I will now read the proclamation. So whereas created by Kent Olberg, an artist of international stature, The It Is I statue of Christ has stood on the Bayfront since 1995 as both a work of art and a site for pilgrimage. And whereas the It Is I statue of Christ, representing Christ calming the waters, serves as a beacon of hope and reassurance, reminding all who see it that there is one who can calm our fears and giving lasting hope, and has been photographed by tens of thousands of visitors and residents. And whereas the 30th anniversary of the It Is I statue offers the community a very special occasion to honor this landmark and its enduring message of faith. And whereas the City of Corpus Christi and First United Methodist Church Corpus Christi celebrate the 30th anniversary of the It Is I statue of Christ. So now, therefore, pursuant to the powers vested in me as the mayor of the City of Corpus Christi, I do hereby proclaim October the 19th, 2025, the 30th anniversary of the It Is I statue of Christ in Corpus Christi, Texas, and encourage all citizens to honor this enduring legacy as a reflection of hope and inspiration for our community.
Out here. Come on down, my friend. You can still come in. We will have a 15-minute pass before our 10 a.m. worship experience. Thank you so much.